The door shook again, harder this time. Wood splintered near the lock. Dust fell from the ceiling. The light flickered once, twice, then held. My phone lay face down on the floor, screen cracked, silent. No signal, no help coming. Footsteps outside. 3 of them, maybe 4. Voices low, angry, certain. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Blood dripped from my knuckles onto the tiles, each drop too loud in the silence. I pressed my back against the wall and tried to breathe, but the air felt thin, like the room itself was closing in. They had taken everything already. My job, my name, my friends, even my family had stopped answering my calls. Tonight wasn't about loss anymore. It was about survival. The window rattled as something heavy slammed against it. Someone laughed, not nervous, not rushed, confident, like this was already over. I slid down to my knees. My chest burned. My mind raced through every option and found nothing. No weapon, no escape. No one left a call, so I did the only thing I had left. I closed my eyes and whispered a prayer I wasn't sure anyone was listening to. As the lock finally gave way and the door began to open, one thought screamed through my head. When a man has no one left in this world, what happens when God is all he has? This all started back when my life was ordinary enough that I complained about small things. Traffic, bills, long workdays. The kind of problems you think matter because nothing real has ever tested you. I lived in a modest apartment on the 3rd floor of a quiet building near the edge of the city. Not poor, not comfortable either, just surviving. I worked as an account supervisor for a mid-sized logistics company. Nothing glamorous, but stable. A paycheck that arrived on time. A routine that kept me moving. Most mornings were the same. Wake up before sunrise. Shower. Cheap coffee. A short prayer I'd learned from my father, whispered more out of habit than belief. Then the bus ride downtown, watching the city wake up through smudged windows. I wasn't lonely, not exactly. I had people around me. Coworkers who nodded in the hallways. A few friends I saw once every couple of months. My mother called every Sunday without fail. My younger sister texted when she needed advice or money. Life felt balanced. Fragile, maybe, but balanced. At work, I kept my head down. Numbers made sense to me. Columns had order. If something didn't add up, there was always a reason, a fix. My manager, Mr. Harlan, liked that about me. He trusted me, gave me access others didn't have. I remember the day things shifted, even though nothing happened yet. It was subtle. A meeting that ended too quickly. Conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Emails sent without me that I should have been on. At home, the building started to feel different too. A new tenant across the hall who never spoke. Packages going missing from the lobby. The elevator camera that suddenly stopped working and was never repaired. I told myself it was stress. Everyone gets paranoid sometimes. The world had been tense lately. People were angry, unstable. You read the news and learn to keep your head down. Still, small things began to stack up. My bank app glitched and showed transactions I didn't recognize, then corrected itself. A stranger called my phone, said nothing, and hung up. My mother mentioned a man asking about me near her house, then laughed it off like it was nothing. At night, I found myself praying longer than usual. Not for anything specific, just praying. Like my soul sensed a storm my mind couldn't see yet. I didn't know then that calm isn't peace. Sometimes it's just the silence before something terrible decides to move. And when it did, it moved fast. The first real incident came on a Monday. I arrived at work and found security waiting by my desk. 2 men I'd never seen before. Polite smiles, hard eyes. They asked me to follow them to a conference room. No explanation. Inside, my manager sat stiffly at the table. There were papers spread out in front of him. Bank statements, transfer logs, my name circled in red ink. They said money had gone missing. Large amounts, over months, routed through internal accounts only I had access to. I laughed at first, actually laughed. It sounded insane even to my own ears. I told them to check again. Told them there had to be a mistake. They did check again. That was the problem. By the end of the day, my access was revoked. My laptop taken. I was placed on unpaid suspension, pending investigation. Mr. Harlan wouldn't meet my eyes as I left. That night, my bank account was frozen. The next incident was worse. 2 days later, police knocked on my door just after midnight. Neighbors watched from behind their curtains as I stood barefoot in the hallway, hands raised, heart hammering. They searched my apartment, took my computer, my phone, old hard drives I'd forgotten, I even owned. They were professional, calm, but the word fraud kept coming up, along with evidence. I called my mother afterward. She didn't answer. I texted my sister. The message showed as read. No reply. By the end of the week, my name was circulating online. Anonymous posts, screenshots, accusations. Someone had leaked partial records, enough to make me look guilty, not enough to tell the full story. Strangers messaged me things I won't repeat. Some threatened me outright. Friends stopped calling. Coworkers blocked me. One sent a single message before disappearing. You need to fix whatever you did, but I hadn't done anything. That truth became my anchor and my curse. I spent days retracing every transaction I could remember. Nights staring at the ceiling, replaying conversations, meetings, moments that felt harmless at the time. Somewhere, something had been altered. Someone had used my access like a mask. When I tried to explain this to the investigators, they nodded like people humoring a child. Then the incidents turned physical. My apartment door was scratched one morning, deep grooves near the lock. A warning, maybe, or a test. I started sleeping with the lights on. I stopped taking the elevator. I checked behind me on the street. One evening, I found a note slipped under my door. No name, no explanation. Just 4 words written in block letters. Stop digging or else. That was when fear stopped being abstract. I went to the police with the note. They logged it, filed it, told me to be careful. Their eyes said they didn't believe me. A week later, my suspension became termination. My landlord called the same day. Complaints, he said. Neighbors felt unsafe. He suggested I consider other arrangements. My savings were locked, my credit ruined. Doors closed everywhere I turned. I tried calling people from my past, old classmates, distant relatives. Most didn't answer. A few did, and after hearing my name in the news, made excuses and hung up. Isolation settled in like a fog. The final incident before everything broke happened on a rainy night. I was on the bus riding home when a man sat beside me. Middle-aged, ordinary. He smelled like damp wool. We rode in silence for 3 stops. Then he leaned closer and spoke without looking at me. You are never supposed to notice, he said quietly. My blood ran cold. I asked him what he meant. He smiled faintly. Some people exist to take the fall, he said. You should have stayed quiet. Before I could respond, he stood and got off the bus, disappearing into the rain. That night, I prayed harder than I ever had in my life. Not polished prayers, not rehearsed ones, just raw words pulled from fear and disbelief. I realized then what they were doing. They weren't just framing me. They were erasing me. And whatever was coming next wasn't going to stop until I was completely alone or completely broken. The door exploded inward. Wood cracked. Hinges screamed. The lock tore free and skidded across the floor. Voices rushed in all at once, sharp, aggressive, overlapping. On the ground. Don't move. Now. I didn't run. There was nowhere to go. 4 men flooded the room. Not police. No uniforms. Just dark jackets, gloves, faces tight with purpose. One of them held my phone up like a trophy. "You really thought deleting it would help?" he said. That's when I understood. The numbers. The transfers. The access only I had. It wasn't random. It was designed. A system built to move money through ghost accounts. Clean, invisible, until someone needed to be blamed. Me. "You saw the audit trail," another man said. "You prayed about it. That was your mistake." They knew. They knew about the late nights, the logs I copied, the file I hid encrypted, buried, sent to an address only I knew, the one thing I had left. "You don't have it anymore," the first man said, stepping closer. "It's over." I laughed. A broken sound. "You're wrong," I said. He frowned. "What?" "I sent it," I whispered. "Weeks ago." Silence, then chaos. One of them lunged for me. Another shouted. A gun came up. The room shattered into motion fists, pain, a crash against the wall. I fell hard, vision blurring. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard sirens. Real ones. Growing louder, the men froze. Panic flashed across their faces. Someone cursed. They bolted out the door, down the stairs, into the night. I lay there, gasping, blood in my mouth, staring at the ceiling as red and blue light washed over the walls. I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty and strangely calm. Because when everything else had been stripped away, my name, my safety, my future, I hadn't won with strength or allies or power. I had survived with faith. And now, the truth was finally catching up to them. The police arrived to a wrecked apartment and a man barely holding himself together. I was taken out on a stretcher. Neighbors stared openly now. No whispers. No curtains. Just faces trying to reconcile the criminal they thought they knew with the bleeding man being carried past them. At the hospital, everything slowed down. Questions came in waves. Detectives this time. Different tone. Different eyes. They weren't looking at me like a suspect anymore. They were looking at me like a survivor. I told them everything. Not all at once. Not cleanly. My voice cracked. I lost my train of thought. But piece by piece, the picture formed. The false audit trails. The restricted access. The shadow accounts masked behind my credentials. The man on the bus. The threat under my door. And finally, the file. Weeks earlier, when the inconsistencies stopped feeling accidental, I had copied the entire transaction structure. Every reroute. Every ghost node. I didn't know who to trust, so I trusted no one. I encrypted it and sent it to an independent journalist whose work exposed corporate crimes. I never followed up. Never even knew if they opened it. They had. While I lay in that hospital bed, machines beeping softly beside me, the system that tried to erase me was collapsing. Warrants were issued. Offices raided. Accounts frozen. Names much higher than mine surfaced: executives, consultants, outside enforcers. My manager was arrested at dawn. So was the man who signed my termination papers. The news shifted fast. Headlines corrected themselves. The word allegedly appeared beside my name, then disappeared altogether. New stories replaced the old ones. Bigger ones. Louder ones. My charges were dropped within days. The bank unlocked my account, slowly, carefully, as if afraid of touching me. The landlord stopped calling. My phone, once silent, began to ring again. Missed calls. Messages that started with, "I didn't know," and "I'm sorry." I didn't answer most of them. My mother finally called. She cried the moment I said hello. My sister apologized through sobs. I forgave them, but something had shifted. Trust doesn't snap back into place. It grows, or it doesn't. The men who broke into my apartment were never all caught. 2 vanished. 1 was found weeks later in another city under a different name. The 4th turned state's evidence. I was offered compensation, a settlement, a quiet way to move on. I declined. Not out of pride, out of clarity. I took time away, moved out of the city, found a smaller place where nights were quiet and doors didn't shake. I started working again, this time with systems built to expose fraud, not hide it. Irony didn't escape me. Some nights, I still wake up to imagined footsteps. Some prayers still come out raw. But fear no longer owns me, because I learned something in the aftermath, something no one teaches you until everything else is gone. When power turns against you, people disappear. When lies get louder, truth feels weak. But when a man has no one left, faith doesn't vanish. It stands, waiting, and it carries you through the fire when nothing else will. I don't live loudly anymore. The city I moved doesn't know my name, and I like it that way. I walk the same streets each morning. I buy coffee from the same small shop. I pray now with intention, not habit. Not because I'm afraid, but because I remember. My work is quiet, deliberate. I help design systems that leave trails instead of erasing them. I teach young analysts how to question what looks clean, how to trust their instincts when something feels off. I never tell them my whole story. I don't need to. The people who once turned away still exist somewhere. Some reached out again months later. Some didn't. I don't carry anger toward them anymore. Fear makes cowards of good people. I learned that the hard way. My mother sleeps better now. My sister laughs more easily. Time didn't give us back what we had. It gave us something stronger. Honesty. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment on my knees in the dark apartment. The moment when I had nothing left to fight with. No name, no defense, no one coming. Only God. I used to think faith was for people who had no other options. I was wrong. Faith is what remains when every other option fails. It's not loud. It doesn't rush in to save you. It waits until you're ready to stand. They tried to erase me. They failed. Not because I was stronger, not because I was smarter, but because when the world abandoned me, I wasn't alone. And I never will be again.